We're live. Ayan. I'm kinda a bit worried na hindi ko dala yung tubig ko ngayon, but siguro kaya naman natin na i-discuss itong topic natin for this evening in quite a short time. I'm hoping that matapos natin itong live stream natin within a span of maybe an hour. I do hope that we can able to manage this within an hour para hindi tayo masyado maubusan ng laway ngayon, kasi I'm sure marami kayong masasabi, marami kayong gustong sabihin with regards to this topic. So, for everyone, welcome back to our channel. This is Justin Cappuccino of Sashes&Scripts, and this evening we will be talking about the topic of, is there a push to have a Latina winner this year? Because I believe that because of the momentum of the Miss Universe candidates from the Latin America coming in because of the latest na Telemundo, I believe, and Smadrain na partnership, we might be seeing the possibility that the Miss Universe competition later on would probably be dominated by placements from Latin America. Now, I'm not saying that this is not going to be, these placements won't be of merit. However, I think much like with what happened in Georgia, in Atlanta, Georgia in 2019, there might be some changes in the way that we will be looking at the format of Miss Universe, as well as the way that the winner is going to be selected. So yun yung pag-uusapan natin this evening. So before anything else, bago tayo mag-umpisa, I would want everyone to please leave a thumbs up doon sa ating live stream ngayong evening na to, para mas marami yung makakita later on after this live stream is published. And please do follow us on our YouTube channel. Dumarami na yung subscriber natin, and I do hope na magkaroon tayo ng mas maraming members so that mas lumago yung community natin. Okay? And also, I am very happy because we're not only growing here on YouTube, but we're also growing in several other social media platforms. For the longest time, I believe that our following in Instagram has been stagnant. Lately, may nakikita akong mga changes on that, so I'm quite grateful for that. Facebook has been a very interesting in terms of growth. So, I am very grateful for everyone who has been, instrumental dito sa paglaki ng ating paglaki ng ating community. I'm also very thankful for everyone na every live stream, every episode pinapanood tayo, because we are getting more traction. Hindi man ganun kabilis yung paglaki ng ating followership on YouTube. However, I see that the growth is in the number of views, in the length of hours that our episodes and videos are being viewed on this platform. So I'm very grateful. Thank you very much for the support. Okay, kamustahan muna tayo. Let's begin with the comments here. Okay, so let's move up our. Okay, okay, this is something new. Mukhang nag-pop up yung ating yung ating chat. It's now this is something I've just noticed. Okay, Family Reyes is here. Sabi niya, hi Miss Philippines. Annie Malca is also here. Hello mga Bex. I-marites natin ang mga Latina. Inke23, he is also here. Maulang evening, Sir Jess. So, nagsimula na ang mga wala-wala sa Miami. Pag-uusapan natin yan because I think that is one of those very interesting na ginawa ng Latin contingent ngayon, because I think we are now focusing on them more so, even more so because of sila yung may ganap. Sabi ni Ping, magandang gabi. Good evening din, Ping. I think may additional na comment dito si Annie. Sabi niya, sabi ni Annie Malka, the design is very orchestrated. Obvious naman na pabor sa mga Latina ang Miss Universe this year. Just like in 2019 where there's a clamor for a black delegate because of the host city. Linel Valenciano is here. Hi Linel, kumusta? Ikumusta mo ako kay Melissa Flores. We're very, very happy that Melissa is the one who is crowned Mexicana Universal this year. Although alam ko na may mga ilang mga kabansa niya na hindi happy sa kanya, but I'm very very happy because another Miss Earth alum is crossing over to the Miss Universe stage, and medyo mabigat yung contender, yung laban ni Melissa, and I think Melissa is one of the girls that Osmel Sosa mentioned as one of his favorites for Miss Universe this year. Okay? Nasaan na tayo? Sabi ni Inke23, Ola, Kap Kun Kap, mabuhay in top 5 kaya? We'll see. I think that there will be maybe an Asian in the top 5, a bevy of Latinas, and a possibility na may isa o dalawang European. But we still need to look at the competition later on to really give that, credence to that assessment. Where are we now? Aicha Sia says, hello dear. Hello, mabuhay from the Philippines. Welcome to the channel and to our live stream discussion this evening. John Snow 79, bonjour universe, or Sawadi universe, maulang gabi muli. Sana everyone is safe, dry, may kuryente at internet. I am looking at because hindi ako gumagamit ng Wi-Fi this evening. I'm using 100% data. So let's see if mapuputol-putol pa siya at this point in time, because maybe it's the Wi-Fi that has issues but not mobile data. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed na we won't have that problem this evening. Okay, let me just adjust my okay. Kasi parang feeling ko mukha ko laki-laki na mukha ko sa screen. Medyo lumayo siguro ako sa sa camera. Ilayo natin tong camera na a little bit, just so there. Okay. Where are we? June says good evening. Good evening, Sir Jason. Okay lang naman na Latina manalo as long as deserving niya. I kinda agree. As long as tinirabaho din niya, just like the rest of the candidates this year. Sabi ni Linel, the Mexicans will watch. Definitely. Chesila says, have you watched Diane's live yesterday? Not yet. I've been seeing some clips. But I think that Diane is one of those girls na kinakailangan nating bantayan. I should speak in English. Diane Leire of France is one of those girls that I believe we need to really focus on among the strong competitors in Europe, because I think that she is really giving it heat come Miss Universe later on. She's very well spoken. I think that she has, being one of the most followed candidates in this year's batch, she is in pretty much in good alignment with the more influencer type of winner that the IMG, the IMG and the Kun-An era is typically, looking for in a winner. So there. I think it's interesting because I still have on the lookout for Europe. The last time that Miss Universe was held in El Salvador, it was a Swedish Yvonne Riding, if I'm not mistaken, who won the title. So I am really looking at the possibility that it might be another European who will win there. Okay, then we have Jam Amihan. Jam says, medyo out of topic ang sa akin, Sir Jason. Ano pong thoughts nyo sa papalitan ang country name na India to Bharat? I'm not against it. I am more interested with how it will be going to be panned out at the global scale later on, if the international community will be accepting of that. Because on our end, I wouldn't mind if the Philippines is going to be renamed Maharlika, or some other name that is aligned with the more Tagalog, the more Filipino roots na name, because that would be interesting. Okay? Omorphia is here. He says, or she says, "Hi, Sir Jason. I wish you more subscriber because you truly deserve it. Dito kami sa edutaining pageant expert 100%. Heart, 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 heart emojis." Ayan. Thank you, Omorphia. I try to make my live stream a little bit different than the rest of the bloggers out there. I want it to be something that would stimulate, everybody's intellect. Para hindi siya so that it's not the usual, just blabbing about and giving opinions, but rather adding something that is, intellectually stimulating for everyone. Okay? Sina Archives is here. Sabi niya, Dominican Republic will win this year's Miss Universe and will be waiting to Salvador. Okay, again, Dominican Republic will win this year's Miss Universe and will waiting to El Salvador. Okay. Linel Valenciano says, I invited them to watch here. Thank you, Linel. Hablon Dawani, maray nabanggi sa imo, pati sa gabos na nagdaldalan sa imo sa live sa live mo. I kind of got a little bit of what you're trying to say, but I do hope na what do you call this? Na it is more on the positive na wording. Because we're not just going to be going to do, chismes and marites here, but we're trying to, make it intellectually stimulating for everyone. Nestor Ventura is here. Sabi niya, "Sir, what do you think of Miss Universe Singapore? I think she looks very promising. I just saw her photos. I haven't seen any interviews with her, but I believe that she is a fitness influencer. So I am looking at the possibility that she might be bringing something different into the table this year. Her name's Priyanka. I forgot her last name, but in her IG handle, I think nakalagay Pri yung her nickname Pri is included in her IG handle, if I'm not mistaken. But I find her really very gorgeous. I find her really very facially interesting. So I am looking at the possibility that later on we might be seeing some Asians who are going to be a little bit more who will become stronger competitors later on when we see them in El Salvador. So I'm not gonna spoil that conversation at the moment, but I will be looking at discussing that towards the middle of our live stream discussion this evening. Okay, so as you all know, naging ugali ko na. I'm trying to make it a habit that every live stream that we have, I will be posting a poll to get an idea of your thoughts about certain aspects of our live stream discussion. So I just posted in the poll section of our live chat box a question. Do you think that there will be a Latina domination at Miss Universe this year? Currently, the poll has three options. It has three options. 43% currently of you says that yes, it will. It is likely that a Latina will become the Miss Universe winner this year. There's 35% who says that an Asian delegate will stop them. And there's 22% saying that Miss Universe might come from either Europe or Africa. So that poll is going to be online for the rest of our discussion this evening. So if you have time, please get your voices heard in the poll section. Okay. So for this evening, the reason why I am what do you call this? I I am having this discussion with you, it's because there has been murmurs, buzz that I've heard from certain, certain mga amigas in the US, that there might be some changes in the way that the judging system is going to be played out this year. I am not yet sure what are the details of that, but if people are starting to talk behind the scenes of possible changes in either the judging process or the format this year, we are going to look at the Miss Universe a little bit different in the way that we assess the candidates. So that means that if this does push through, it means that every girl in the competition would really need to make some tweaks in the way that they present themselves, in the way that they roll out their pageant campaigns, in the way that they manage their, their social media presence, their wardrobe, the way that they do their OOTDs, their social causes, etc. So we're not yet sure how this is going to play out later on, but we will be keeping our ears on the ground for such, such details. Okay. Wait, let me just adjust something. I think, give me a second. I just need to adjust our, there. Because nakatutok sa mata ko yung fan. And ayoko matuyuan ng mata habang nagla-livestream tayo. Okay, so anyway, as I was saying, so because of the rumors that there is some changes in the format, immediately what came into mind was the 2019 scenario. I think someone of you or one of you have mentioned the 2019 scenario. I think that is Inke 23 earlier, or was it Animalka? Annie? I think it was Annie. Because if you really want to have a very if you want an outcome to turn the way that you want it, you plan for it. Just as much as you would see, what happened in, what do you call this, in 2019, where in order for them to be able to push, certain candidates, I believe that they made some changes in the way that the format is presented. So more speech. So therefore, the possibility of a candidate who is strong in the way that she talks has, stronger probability or higher probability to make it to the top 5, make it to the top 3, and win the title. So this is another possible scenario that we might be seeing at Miss Universe this year. And this might favor certain groups, certain individuals in the competition. And from what I've heard is that the what do you call this, the possibilities that an Asian or a Latina is going to win is the agenda that is being pushed. Now, I am not saying that this rumor has factual basis, because because of course, like any other rumor, it can be invented or it can be untrue, it can be fabricated. So I don't want to make an assumption that this is going to be the case. However, looking at recent events, I am trying to ponder and think of what could be the possible scenario where Miss Universe is going to lean towards to, or lean forwards against on. And with what's happening with JKN Global, their financial issues and all, I think that this time around, the Miss Universe is going to find a candidate that is more likely be more commercial. In terms of appeal, in terms of what do you call this, in terms of not just appeal, but commerciability, in terms of sellability. That's the word. Okay, so right now, in terms of who consumes pageantry, there's only two markets that has, like a foothold, like a strong foothold on pageantry nowadays, because that is where the money is. That is where, people's interests are, and these are the Asians and the Latinas, the Latin American countries. So the the propensity that it's going to be a Latina versus Asian showdown come Miss Universe is also highly possible. I'm not discounting a possible win from Europe or a possible win from the continent of Africa, but right now, if Miss Universe wants a winner that is going to be palatable and sellable to a wide audience, they might be crowning an Asian or a Latina. However, my radar is pointing towards the Latina as of this moment, because they are the ones that are showing, they're out for blood in recent events. The mere fact that Telemundo and Smile Train is having an event right now in Miami with, I believe, 8 Latina candidates: Chile, Argentina, Guatemala, what else is there? Colombia, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, and Mexico, and Nicaragua. So there are 8 Latina candidates there. There are 2 Europeans. If I'm not mistaken, there is Iceland as well. I mentioned about Germany being there. Canada was also there in that event, as well as reigning Miss USA Morgan Romano and Miss Universe Arbonic Gabriel. That means that this is like an all-out, an all-out bash for the Smile Train Latin America, na offices. So ibig sabihin nito, malaki yung exposure. There definitely is a huge exposure for the Latina candidates here. And even Miss Germany, whose national director is actually Colombian, there is a possibility that she also gets additional exposure, social media exposure, because of the event. And nowadays, it seems that having a Smile Train event is something that you need to have in order for you to have some speaking points later on, especially with the new the Voice of the Universe na video requirement that is asked of the candidates. So this means that I believe that Telemundo is helping the Latina contingent, to gather more exposure, to gather more momentum, I believe, because they have the machinery to do so. And, having enough visibility, having enough social media buzz allows, people to get on board on these candidates. I think that this is a very smart decision, or a rather smart move and strategy of Telemundo in bringing viewership into their network, as well as prepping up and lifting up the possibility of a Latina winner, because suddenly we are now taking into consideration these Latinas and their how do you say this, and we are giving the attention, we are giving them the notice that they are out there working and building the momentum for their respective campaigns. And if you haven't noticed yet, candidates like let's say Venezuela is getting noticed. Initially, we had like some reservations with regards to Diana Silva. Some of us might have thought that, okay, she's beginning to lose momentum. She doesn't have the same glow that she had during the Miss Earth competition several years back, around, if I'm not mistaken, around 2018, 2017. And then suddenly, she arrives at Miami, and then she's like Miss Venezuela-ing hard. She's like, elevating her position. She's like giving us the energy that this is another, okay, she's not necessarily the same, facial features as Amanda Dudamel, but the way that she is Miss Venezuela-ing her way into, into our social media feed, we are reminded of the same energy that we have seen from past Miss Venezuela, like Amanda Dudamel, being, channeled by Diana Silva. So now we start to, okay, let's not just easily dismiss Diana Silva because of, her transformation, because of, the things that she's done to improve herself in the past, several months. But now we are looking at, okay, if she's styled more softly, if she allows herself to showcase more of her personality, suddenly we might, we might be seeing her as a possible threat in the semis, a possible easy placer in the top 10 perhaps. So that is the case for Venezuela. And then we also have Nicaragua, who is starting to get more noticed. Nicaragua is not your heavy hitter when it comes to the Latina candidates traditionally, but this time around we are noticing her. We are giving like, okay, this is going to be a tough competitor, because what you see in her presentation during the event where I think it was last night's event in Miami. She was channeling, very reserved and very controlled energy, but that she's hiding all of her arsenal so that she's going to show it come Miss Universe later on in November. I think that was a smart move, because she's not, going all out as the rest of the Latina candidates that we saw in Miami, but there is a sense of like presence when she appears on stage, when she was asked to do, a short demonstration of her pasarela skills. She knows that this is not a it's not a scored event. However, she's just giving enough so that people would get hooked on her, and I think that is a smart move on her, so that people will latch on to her later come competition finals. That way, she's not getting ahead of herself and then overexposing herself, but rather leaving small crumbs for us to follow, leading to her. So that is a very smart move. I think that is something that is calculated, but at the same time very interesting with the way that she laid it out. Now, I want to talk about Miss Mexico, because Miss Mexico, when I heard her talk during the interviews at Telemundo Studios with Andrea Meza and Shanice Palacios of Nicaragua, that this girl is smart. So if there's going to be a lot of speaking, engagements or a lot of speaking rounds in Miss Universe later this year, you would know that she's going to nail it. And that is what is making me nervous in terms of the chances of the Asian delegate, because she speaks very straightforwardly. It feels like when she's communicating, there is no pause for her brain to be able to translate what's going on in her mind and right out of her mouth. That is, one of the things that I noticed with her when she speaks. And this is something that was already quite, quite there. It was already showing during her stint at Miss Earth. But this time around, there is more conviction in the way that she speaks, even if she speaks in Spanish. There is always going to be a Spanish translator in Miss Universe, and more likely that if the event or the Miss Universe pageant is going to be in South America, there will be a lot, or there will be some Latin speaking judge who will sit on the judging table later on. So that means that there is a certain, there is already a certain possibility that they are understood by the judges without the need of an interpreter. So they might be able to deliberate or convince other judges that the translator might have mistranslated a word here and there, and the connotation of what was spoken and answered during the Q&A is slightly off, and they might be able to explain with their fellow judges what the real content was. And this is something that we really need to pay attention to, because sometimes there are words that is going to be lost in translation in terms of its connotation, in terms of what is being implied. Now, knowing that certain candidates, I've seen, Shanice Palacios being interviewed in Spanish, Mexico, as well as Spain's Atenea Perez. I think these girls are some of the girls that's going to be bringing the hit when it comes to interviews later on. Even if it's in Spanish, that is an advantage to them because they are going to be in a Spanish-speaking country. That means that the advantage is theirs. And this is where we should be looking at the judges, the panel of judges, the selection committee later on, because if these are a selection of women who are very conversant in the language, then you know that they understood what is being said without the need of a translator, and they are going to be scoring them higher because they have the advantage of the language. They have the same, they are speaking the same tongue. That is something that is the disadvantage this time of the Asian delegates. Unlike Latin America, I believe that the Asian doesn't have like a united front in terms of exposure for each of the candidates. Unlike Latin American candidates this year, you have Telemundo, you have Latin America, Smile Train Latin America, creating this event to give awareness for cleft palate. But ultimately, aside from the exposure that the organization gets, it also allows them, publicity for the girls. So it's a win-win situation between Telemundo and Smile Train, Latin America, as well as the Spanish-speaking candidates who are present there. In terms of exposure, they are definitely going to have that in their arsenal. That we don't have that here in Asia, because even in Asia we are kind of splintered. There is South Asia, we have Southeast Asia, we have Central Asia, and etc. So there are pockets, and even here in the Philippines, we have Smile Train Philippines on our own. We don't necessarily have like a Smile Train organization that overheads activities within Southeast Asia. That is the advantage of the Latin American girls. So now, because of our regional differences here in Asia, we are now at a disadvantage in terms of exposure, like the ones that Telemundo provides for the Latin American countries. And this is, I believe, is where we are disadvantaged as Asians. This is not, however, discounting the fact that there is still a huge possibility that an Asian or an African or a European is going to win the crown. But it does give, additional arsenal for the Latin American girls, because the momentum has started building for them. And with that being close to the actual Miss Universe competition later on, I think that starting the momentum at this point in time gives you an advantage. So if you're going to start, your campaign later this October, you might have to roll it out impeccably, because right now it's the Latin girls who in Tagalog we call sila ngayon yung pumupondo. They're the ones who are building the foundation for their campaign later on when they go full swing at around October, November of this year. So that is, I think, the reason why we all have this feeling that it might be a Latina who's going to win Miss Universe this year. Okay? Medyo marami na akong nasabi. I kinda had a lot of things to discuss. But let's start reading some comments before we continue. Okay? Okay, there's a lot of comments now. I think... Okay, where did we end? I think it's Linnell's comment, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so let's read this comment from Hablon Dawani. Maray na banggi sa imo, pati sa gabos na nagdaldalan sa imo life mo. Nestor Ventura says, okay, I think I've read this already. Sorry about that. I think we're now where we should be reading the comment from RM McCase. He says, good evening, sir. I believe Thailand will get the crown this year. I think it's about time and they have the right candidate to get the job done. I agree. They have been ripe since Maria, since Fasai, since Amanda, but I don't think that the momentum has always been on their side. This time around, I think that Antonia, if she plays her cards smart, if she's able to be as relaxed as she was in when she competed in Miss Supranational, I think she got it is on the bag. I think among the Asians, if you line up Antonia with the rest of the Latinas, she's not gonna get lost. She's not gonna stick out like a sore thumb. Sorry, Thor thumb. She will not stick out like a sore thumb because facially, she kind of has that Latina vibe with her despite being Asian. And we have to thank her, her Eurasian, good looks because of that. Hindi siya naliligaw sa mga lineup ng mga Latinas. However, I do not discount that we might have an Asian winner, but we might have the rest of the top 5 coming from Latin American countries. So that is one of the possible scenarios that might happen, and that is actually one of those scenarios that is percolating in my head for the last several days, last couple of days actually. Where are we? John Snow 79 says Anne-Marie Potamo, Finland won Miss Universe 1975 in El Salvador. Okay, so it's not Sweden. JB, the question is, the comment is, question, yung mga rules ba ng MEO ngayon dapat sundin ng mga national directors or nakadepende pa din sa kanila kung susunod sila, like accepting trans women, married women? I think that is the rules on the trans women is dependent on the laws existing on the country. In terms of the married, single mothers, and the age limit removal, I think it applies to every country. It applies to all countries. Alex Manaog, bahala kayo dyan. Basta alam ko, ang mananalo ay matangkad. Hulaan nyo na lang kung sino. Okay, thanks, Alex. I think a lot of the girls this time around are quite tall. Mrs. Spain, I believe, is 5'10". Antonia is around 5'8", 5'9". Michelle is 5'10". Miss India is 5'11". Who else? Diana Silva, I think, is also 5'9", 5'10". I'm not sure with other girls, but these are some of the girls that I currently remember their heights. Dansky says, I think same last year, dominant mga Latinas sa top 5 this year, opposite of Asian domination this year. Okay, Hablon Dawi, kung mapipilitan ang offer ng... okay. Again. Let's read that again. Kung mapapalitan ng offer ng offer ang Pilipinas, tayo lang ata ang letter O. At pag na, at pag nagpakilala ang ating candidate from the land of gold Ophir, windang silang lahat bagong Filipinas. Okay, so that is in relation to the change of name. I think that would definitely, if we're going to change name, and like for example, like India, and they're going to be changing to Bharat, then that puts the B group, a little more spotlight. If the Philippines is going to be removed from the P group, I think the P group will weaken in terms of interest. But if let's say the Philippines is going to be placed in the M, for let's say if it changed to Maharlika and it's placed in the M group, there's not a lot of strong countries at the M group. So the Philippines is going to stand out. That would be an advantage for the Philippines as compared to if the Philippines remains in the P group, where the P group is always very competitive with Peru, the Philippines, Puerto Rico in there. It's going to be a very tough competition being there, because you have to factor in how judges are going to score, because if you are right smack in the middle of a very strong group and you're the weak link, then there's a possibility that you're not gonna make semis. So that is how my mind is looking at that scenario. Okay, Dorothy V. Jones says, Kun An appreciates the huge size of the Spanish-speaking media market in Latin America and the US. She has calculated the travel efficiency of El Salvador vis-a-vis its countryside size. Okay, so I am thinking that definitely business, business has something to do with the changes that we will be seeing in the competition later on, whether it's in the selection of the type of winner or the market that they want to serve. Okay, Linel says, so more on speech ito, pak to if more on speech. Pabor kay Melissa. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, Melissa is one of those girls, one of those candidates that really has a very strong communication skills despite it being in Spanish. Again, there's always a translator that's going to translate what's going, her answers or her responses to questions later on. John Snow 79, with or without a new format, for me, France, Thailand, Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, and Bahrain are my current top 5 in order. I agree with France, I agree with Thailand, Nicaragua, Dominican Republic. I am apprehensive a little bit on Miss Bahrain, because despite being one of the most gorgeous faces in the competition this year, she might also be one of the shortest delegates this year. If I'm not mistaken, the Miss Bahrain last year was around 5'6", 5'7", and the current winner of the title is shorter than her. So that might be the problem later on. Looking at the B group, the A and B group in Miss Universe is kind of like in the middle in terms of the competitiveness. So who knows, we might be seeing her making it into the semis, because if she is able, to charm her way through her interviews in Miss Universe later on, then by all means, if she deserves a spot, she worked hard for it, then she needs to be given that spot. Give to Caesar what is due to Caesar, give to God what is due to God, as they say in the Bible. So there. Dansky at 09 says, as long as Telemundo ang network, malamang na malamang pasok na naman lahat ng mga Latinas. Hablon Dawani is asking kung I'm using, yes, I'm using a wireless microphone. Yun yung medyo inayos ko kanina, kasi if the fan is directly nakatutok sa mic, magkakaroon ng it will still pick up the sound. So I made the fan slightly off para hindi siya diretso sa akin. Hindi siya diretso dito sa lapel na mic. Dansky also says Latinas versus Asians. That is the scenario that I am looking at, because I think the Asians most of the Asians is going to be like underdogs, or more likely they're going to be the dark horses in this year's competition, because I think the Latinas are really out for blood. They are undeniable. They're going to make, I believe that it might be possible that around 70% of the semifinalists, or even 50%, a minimum of 40% perhaps of the semifinalists this year is going to be from Latin America, unless that madiskaril yung kanilang campaigns, dependent on the selection committee that they will be selecting to judge the girls this year. Where are we? Mark Gonzalez says, hey, good evening, Sir Jason and ka-scripters. Sabi ni Dansky, Telemundot turned out to Teleluto. Okay? Dorothy V. Jones says, I believe Kun-An is working back the trust of the Latin American market. It's a gold mine. I agree, because right now, I think that the Latin American market is slightly more biased towards Miss Grand International and Miss Supranational, because of the way that it is usually a lot of, well, actually, with just a difference of a couple of girls, majority of the winners of the Miss Grand International are all Latinas. But of course, if the market is there, and one pageant is like catering to that market always, definitely that market will shift loyalties. So maybe we might be seeing a turnaround because of that. Alex Manaug says, kapag hindi manalo ang frontrunner, sure ako dark horse ang mananalo. Okay, John Snow says, akala ko ba smile train event ang ganap? Bakit nagmukhang New York Fashion Week ang nangyari? Puro rampahan, tarush lang. Kasi that creates content. And always, pinag-uusapan yung saang event ito. So, parating nababanggit yung Smile Train because of that. And kung hindi ako magkakamali, yung mga events na to, may bayad for you to attend. And siguro yung mga tao, they pay for entrance dun sa mga events na to. Kaya hindi mo rin masasabi na panay rampahan, but if these are paid events, then kumikita din yung organization through donations. Vili Gutierrez Mendoza says, hola, buenas noches, Señor Jason. Hola, ¿cómo estás? It's, how do you say, it's raining here or rather it's drizzling here in Metro Manila, in Manila. Dorothy V. Jones says, El Salvador is more than a coincidence. It is a business decision. Definitely. Any hosting is going to be a business decision, because with Miss Universe, you have to pay for hosting rights, as well as production rights, as well as certain fees with regards to public appearances of the winner, certain fees associated with hosting the event. So definitely there is always business mix there. Just look at how Chavit Singson had to bring out down payment after down payments just to ensure that the the Miss Universe event is going to happen here in Manila in January of 2017. Bere Good says, good evening, Sir Jason. Greetings from Dubai. I hope that it's starting to cool down in the Middle East, if I'm not mistaken, around the September, October months. That's the months that the temperatures start to cool. So I hope that it's comfortable there. Dansky 079 at 09 says, instead, mga powerhouses ang i-push through nila. How about mga underdog or underrated na countries? I still believe that there will be some countries who are not powerhouses who's going to make it in Miss Universe this year. But I think the possibility of the powerhouse countries to win is also likely very high. Sabi ni Ben Hernandez, hello Sir Jason, watching live from Marikina. Dansky 09 ulit. I think this year ipapanalo talaga ang powerhouses na malakas. Lift up their financial issues. They really need a marketable, bankable woman this year. I agree. That is why it is likely that they might be choosing a winner who is commercially viable in different markets. Ben Hernandez says, Miss Universe Mexico or Mexicana Universal, her name is Melissa Flores, looks credible and marketable. Palaban na naman ang mga Latina. They are always very competitive. So that is no surprise. Okay, sabi ni Linel, Melissa can speak English too. Is such that the event is a Telemundo show. Kaya siguro she was speaking in Spanish. However, I think for Melissa, stick to Spanish so that she's able to convey her thoughts much more efficiently. Especially if English is a difficult language for her, or if English is if her level of English speaking ability is still not within the levels of the Miss South Africa, Miss India levels, because it's easier and it's easier to get lost in your head when you are translating what you're going to say in your head before speaking, and that loses precious time in terms of communicating your thoughts. However, if she is like Sophia, Miss Universe 2019 second runner-up, I forgot her last name, also from Mexico, if she's very, she has that same level of speaking ability as her, then go for English. Jon Snow, Nicaragua says, Jon Snow says, Nicaragua reminds me of a more vibrant Ghislaine Ferreira, Miss Brazil 2003. I kind of like Shami's ability to turn the heat when she's on stage, while at the same time having a very sweet face, very approachable. She looks very approachable on her social media feed, on videos that we see of her. There is a certain warmth that she emanates that I'm kind of liking. So she's not just technically proficient, but also there's a certain warmth that you'd want to get to know because of the way she channels that energy. Nasa na ba tayo? Okay, Dorothy V. Jones, sabi niya, it's also no coincidence that last year's top placement were Venezuela, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico. It's supposed to build up their interest and clamor to bring back the crown. Agree. Again, I am not discounting, the chances of Carla Gilfu, of Mariana Downing, of Diana Silva making semis, but there are a lot of very competitive Latinas this year. Let's not forget about Colombia, let's not forget about Nicaragua, let's not forget about Peru and Chile, because these girls, they're also looking, promising in terms of their chances of winning. And I haven't even spoken about Brazil's Maria Bechane. I think we should also be looking at her as a possible, strong contender from the Latin American delegates. Dansky 09, sabi niya, what if i-push talaga ni Haluda Universe Antonia Can she do that? Win-win situation for her. I am not sure kung mala-trump din siya na meron siyang trump cards. Kasi wala pa naman tayong naririnig na ganon as of the moment. But definitely, kung gusto niyang manalo si Antonia, may paraan. Kaya niyang gawin yon. Siya yung may-ari eh. Nasaan ba tayo? Nasaan na ba tayo? Okay. Sabi ni Alex Manaog, ang simple lang, bakit mananalo galing Latin America? Dahil doon gaganapin ang pageant. Nang ginanap sa US, nanalo ang US. Nang ginanap sa Asia, India nanalo. Diba? Ang simple lang. Pero good luck pa din kay Michelle D. Sana galingan niya. Okay, Linel says that Mexico, Melissa is 6 feet tall. Inket 23, sabi niya, sana Pilipinas isigaw ni Michelle. At least P pa din. Okay, RM McCase, Sir Jason, in your opinion, when the MUO did not let Thailand, Indonesia, and Vietnam and the Philippines enter the semis last year, did it reflect on their financial status this year? It was a bad idea. I don't think that the financial troubles that JKN is having now is simply because of purchasing the Miss Universe organization earlier in or late in the late 2021 or sorry, late 2022, sorry. I think that because of the pandemic, a lot of businesses is having difficulties. But then you purchase a pageant that is worth millions of or billions in that case for the Thai currency, that added additional financial pressure to an organization who is already experiencing tough times because of the global pandemic. I don't think that the Miss Universe pageant alone being purchased by JKN Global is the reason why they're not doing well financially or that they're not, liquid in terms of cash. I think that the reason why, all of these financial troubles are revealing itself now, it's because of, one problem adding to another, and that is the reason why we're having this case with, financial issues with JKN Global's ability to pay their loans. I do not think, however, that this is something to be worried about, because whether the JKN Global survives or not, there will always be an entity who can purchase the Miss Universe organization after or if the current owner wants to have it sold. So pagpapasahan lang din yang naman yan. Okay, let's now look at the numbers at the poll, because right now I think everybody is leaning towards, or rather a huge majority, half of you actually at 54% is saying that yes, it is likely that a Latina will win Miss Universe. 35% of you is saying an Asian delegate will stop them. And then an 11% says it might be coming from Europe or Africa this year. Okay? Okay, let's go back to the comments. Ask Ketchum. India is 5'9" and her stage presence is undeniable. However, Ash, I find that in some reports, her height is around 1.85 meters, and that roughly translates around 5'11". So, and she also looks really, really tall. So, maybe we have to look further into that. Alex Manaog says, may dark horse na galing European country na matangkad at sa tingin ko pasok siya sa banga ng bagong Miss Universe organization. In terms of the Europeans, I am still having my eyes on France and Spain. So hopefully later on when the profiles of the Miss Universe or Miss Universe candidates is already published by the organization, we all take time to evaluate and read through them, so we get to know the candidates a little bit better, and that we are able to read more, read into, their chances of winning. Nasa na tayo? Dorothy V. Jones says, if Michelle can learn some meaningful Spanish sentences, she can influence enough support on her side, despite being an Asian in the midst of strong Latinas. I think that if she's not just able to interject, phrases here and there, but rather converse, I think that would be a much better strategy for her. Because for sure, a lot of other Asian candidates would probably think of that same strategy. So maybe the better strategy is to learn how to be conversant, at least conversant in Spanish, so that she won't get lost in the sea of very very competitive na batch. Okay, nasa na tayo? Morphia. Ang worry ko, Sir Jason, baka panalunin si Antonia as if she is the starving beast to tame. So far, Mariana Downing from the Dominican Republic is may A-lister among the Latinas. Para siyang enchanted swan. I kind of agree. I really like Mariana. She has a very interesting face, a very commercial face, and if I'm not mistaken, she is also a working model. So, the mere fact na nakikitaan natin siya ng potential na manalo, if in case that she is well prepared, she works on the area of the presentation skills, because I think that Mariana's weakness still is on the pasarela na side, because if I'm looking at her nationals performance versus the nationals performances of, let's say, Antonia, of India, of Diana Silva, in terms of the pasarela skills of, let's say, Shanice Palacios, I think she's still lagging behind. There are still other girls who have stronger presentation skills. So kung ang pambawi niya is the interview skills, if she's able to communicate well and use the interview section as a place where she can boost her chances of making semis, of really leaving a good impression with the judges, then I don't mind seeing her advance to the top 3 of the competition this year. Again, as I said, she's one of the most facially gorgeous candidates in this batch. And also in the case of Antonia, I still think that she is the Asian flag bearer at this point in time. I think that with a lot of Latin pages is still placing her in the top 5, top 3, or even number 1 in their in their hot picks, in their predictions, current predictions. Let's not sleep on that, because she has among the Asian girls, she has the momentum working for her. Wait a minute, where is the comment section? Okay, Rani Lu Idio. Okay, it's a Spanish comment, so I do hope I am able to enunciate the words better. Okay. Buenas noches, Señor Jason. Muy encanta y hermosa, bella. Top 5, Colombia, Nicaragua, Dominicana República, República Dominicana, Venezuela, Perú. Bueno, Telemundo, por favor, la bella candidata y latinas, porque asianas bella. The top 10 is France, Philippines, Thailand, India, Russia, and Bahrain. The top 15 would be Brazil, Costa Rica, Jamaica, Curacao, and Canada. Okay, there. Dorothy V. Jones says, one may also analyze Kun An's business decision this way. Her next winner will be her next target market, which can be Europe or Africa. I agree. She may have already earned her keep by pageant night. this is a very interesting observation and perspective from Dorothy, because I think that that is a good possibility. Whoever is making waves in the top 10, top 15 in this year's pageant, that is in building for a possible win from certain continents on that year. So yes, I kind of agree that that could be, you know, something that 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 has already been put in place in order to create interest into, you know, in order to create, you know, how to say this, in order to create buzz for next year. Because seeing that a Latin dominated top 5 in NOLA earlier this year, that might be, you know, like a laying of foundation so that a Latina will be crowned in Miss Universe in El Salvador. And if in case that a Latina wins in El Salvador, Asia, Africa, and Europe might get, you know, get riled up and give their best candidate in the edition next year, so that, you know, it would be the Asia, Africa, Europe contingent that's going to have, you know, very competitive batch of girls. So that's not a that's not a scenario that we're going to dismiss. Pwedeng mangyari yan dahil sa tingin ko, kung pumupondo na ang MU.org ngayon, or rather, kung pumonda na ang MU.org sa mga Latinas nitong nakaraang Miss Universe sa NOLA, and they're doing that again in Miss Universe in El Salvador this year, we might be expecting that whoever is the majority, the dominant group in the top 10, top 15 later on in El Salvador, is probably going to be the kind of winner that they're going to be selecting in 2024. So we have to really, you know, analyze what's going on later on the ground, on the competition, so that we're able to have a historical based analysis later on when we're talking about Miss Universe in 2024. Okay? Zautea Tualaut says India. I agree. India is one of the dark horses, definitely in the competition. Probably one of the 2 Asian flag bearers in Miss Universe this year. Okay. I think okay, so before we end our live stream this evening, let me just look at yung situation natin on our poll. I asked earlier, do you think there will be a Latina domination at Miss Universe in El Salvador this year? And 57% of you says that yes, a Latina is going to win Miss Universe. There's 33% of you saying that an Asian is probably gonna stop them, and underwhelming 10% says Miss Universe might come from Africa or Europe. Okay? Saldi Salen is here. Nakahabol siya bago tayo mag-end ng ating live stream. He says, it would be refreshing if the girl who would win Miss Universe ay yung hindi pa nananalo, regardless kung taga saan pang continent. Yan. Lalo siguro kung top 3 ay yung mga talunan in the past 30 years. Wild wish. That is, you know, it is a sweet scenario to imagine, but highly likely. I would think that ang ipapasok pa rin ng MU.org is yung mga countries na alam nila ang pagkakakitaan nila. So maybe a new first-time country will win Miss Universe is highly possible, but I don't think that yung majority of the top 5 is going to be a country that never placed at all. Oh, okay. Dorothy Jones. I did not watch Miss Universe Japan. I actually haven't I actually missed that one. I haven't seen, I haven't researched yet on the winner. However, I just looked at my feed earlier before we started live streaming. I am looking at a potential, placer with Miss Universe Singapore. I think na very interesting siya. But I would have to dig into her background first before getting to, getting to be comfortable saying that she's going to make it as a possible semifinalist. So I kind of need to look at that a little bit more before making some like some conclusions on her. Okay. Rani Luidio says top 20 niya is si Mexico, South Africa, Indonesia, Nepal, and Australia. Aichasia says we haven't heard about Miss El Salvador. I haven't seen her really making waves on social media or even making really strong impression or get a strong presence from her. I think that is something that she needs to work because her other competitors is working overtime to really get, noticed, to really get media mileage, to really get coverage. However, I do not discount the possibility that she might make semis because from what I'm seeing right now, if Magali Febles will have a hand on her preparations for Miss Universe, she's going to be an easy shoe-in because right now I think that when Magali was in El Salvador meeting with the president, President Bukele, I am sure that one of the things that they talked about is the possible training of the El Salvadorian girl. So I am seeing that it's a bit quiet on her camp at this moment. So I do hope that she starts to be more aggressive in her campaign. Okay, last mga comments before we wrap our live stream. Hablon Dawani, is it possible that the winner will be a crossover? Definitely. We've seen that with Andrea Mesa, we've seen that with Catriona Gray, and a bevy of other girls before. So, it's not, out of the realm of possibility. Pwede siyang mangyari. Jon Snow, in 1975, Finland won in El Salvador. 1977, Trinidad and Tobago won in Dominican Republic. 1978, South Africa won in Mexico. 1982, Canada won in Peru. 1986, Venezuela won in Panama. 1989, Holland won in Mexico. 1993, Puerto Rico won in Mexico. 2001, Puerto Rico won in Puerto Rico. 2002, Russia won in Puerto Rico. 2003, Dominican Republic won in Panama. 2004, Australia won in Ecuador. 2007, Japan in Mexico. 2011, Angola in Brazil. Latin country hosted Miss Universe 13 times and Latina won 4 times in Latin soil, about 30% chance. And that includes Puerto Rico winning in Bayamon, Puerto Rico. Looking at the top 10 of the Miss Universe in that year, it is someone posted this on one of our live stream about how many how many from Latin America has made it into the top 10 in the years that you've mentioned. Lumalabas that around 34 to 40% of the semifinalists of the top 10 during those years are Latin Americans. So that means that they have the advantage. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have, they are immediate shoe-ins for the titles, but 30 to 40% of your top 10 and the rest is spread between Asia and what do you call this? Asia, Africa, and Europe. That's like you're having 4 Latin American girls or girls from the Americas, and you have 2 each for those 2 other continental na mga groupings. So that means that 40%, that's big, in a top 10. They essentially have the advantage in terms of numbers, making it into the top 10. So just as there's more mas malaki yung chances that Asians can get into the semis when it's in Asia. Yun yung common na or yung commonly held na perception, but again, if we're looking at the numbers, hindi nagsisinungaling ang numbers that there is a certain type of domination in the top 10 whenever it is hosted by a Latin American country for Latin American candidates. Okay? Dorothy V. Jones, maybe you could discuss one of these days the changing tastes of pageant organizations in choosing their winners. Just a suggestion. That is a great suggestion, and I will think of how am I going to interject that in our live stream in the future. But for now, I think that is a topic that needs to be tabled, because I think we need to research more on that as well, because we have to look at historical facts, historical figures, and the research needs to be, at least on my end, a little bit more thorough. Okay? So, thank you very much, everyone, for our very interesting live stream. I am very grateful for everyone who, had your I'm thankful for everyone who had taken time from your busy schedule, because it's Monday tomorrow, and I know you're going to be preparing for work. So I'm very grateful for the time that you spent with me this evening. Thank you very much for the support. Before we leave, please do like the live stream so that a lot more people is able to look and check our episode later on. If you're new to the channel, please do give us a follow. Don't forget to share as well this live stream to your friends and your colleagues. Okay? Okay, last question. Pahabol, sabi ni H, is CK your favorite perfume? Actually, it's not. It changes depending on the mood. There was one time where Issey Miyake was my favorite. There was a time where my favorite was just the Angel's Breath na cologne. So it changes definitely on the mood. I don't want to be stuck with just one perfume, because I think that's gonna be boring. Brigito, last na comment. For Miss Universe to survive, they should crown a Latina this year. Arbuni was not a good ambassador for Miss Universe. That is according to Brigito, a very, very controversial na comment. But that is, that is yet to be seen. It might be that they had to, siguro kinakailangan nilang remain yung foothold nila sa American market, kaya siya ang pinanalo. But I think this time, if they will crown a Latina, they are going to be, to be full of activities for her reign, because she will definitely become a very well-traveled winner among the Latin American markets. Okay? Yan. That's it. Thank you very much for everyone dun sa oras ninyo. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much for everyone who joined from the different parts of the world, wherever you are, to every Filipino out there na sumubaybay sa ating live stream this evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I do hope that our community would grow soon and grow bigger. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following. So for those who are new to the channel, again, please do hit the notification bell for more pageant related updates. Thank you, everyone. See you next live stream natin. And I do hope na walang drastic na mga changes na naman na i-announce ang Miss Universe organization in the next several weeks. Okay, bye everyone. Take care and have a great evening and a great week ahead.